Hello, this is Dan from the training department, and today what I'd like to show you is how to update the software on a mainboard PCB if the unit will not update in the auto mode. That we are going to be using the direct mode. Now, with using the direct mode, there is a service bulletin and a couple of newsletters which need to be looked at to tell you exactly what you're doing and how to do it. So there's a couple of things I need to show you how to do before we get into the direct mode updating. Now, you're going to use this to update a main board, to install the universal compressor, and you're going to update all PCBs on all model refrigerators from July of 2014 through May of 2019. We're doing a software upgrade to these PCBs. So it doesn't matter if you're out on a door gasket or an ice maker or a no-cool, we want you to update the software on the main PCB. There will be a sticker that says software update, copyright LGE. It'll be right below the model serial plate, so please put it on neatly. All right, so now, let's say we tried to update the PCB using the auto mode and we got a no match found, or maybe your jig died because it wasn't properly charged. That's happened to us before. So if you're forced to go into the direct mode, there's a few things you need to know. And to make sure I don't miss any, I've made myself a little checklist here. But the service bulletin I'm referencing today is CNZ 201-900-23504. Now, the first thing I want to cover with you is not all boards can be updated. So if you go to the back of that service bulletin, what we're doing is telling you that certain PCBs cannot be updated. Most of these PCBs were built in 2014. And what happened is we weren't thinking about updating boards at that time, so they didn't have what was needed, a rewrite boot put in them or something of that nature. Now, there's three PCBs that were built in 2019. So on this, it tells you the PCB part number, and it says if it was built before, and it'll give you a date. So first off, if we grab one of these boards over here, somewhere on the board, and I'm going to show you two different boards here. If I can get Madison to key in, like right down here at the bottom of this board, you'll find a sticker. And that sticker's got our part number on it. Now, sometimes it's not there. Sometimes it'll actually be located on one of our capacitors, but it'll have the part number. And usually it's an EBR. Now, you need to know when this board was made. So if we look at the part number and we go behind it, you'll see a series of numbers. Skip the first two. After the first two tells you the date the board was built. So in this case, it's saying 124022. So this board was built in 2014, February, and then the date. So I now know the date this board was built. If I look over here on this other example I was showing you, now on some of them, they'll actually put a break between the first two numbers and the rest. This already has the break. So this board was built 2016 in May. So that's how you get the production date of the board. So then you could go back to your service bulletin and find that EBR number and then say, okay, the production date was this board can be flashed. All right? So that's the first thing I needed to go over with you. And it will tell you on that, and there's also another It's a service news that came out. It came out September 16, 2019, and it's telling you the same information. So we can now tell when we've got our production date, we can find out, is this a PCB that can be updated? All right, so production date. Now, finding the software version. If you're doing a direct mode update, you have to know the software so you can determine the new software. So again, we're going to go to the board. Now, what you want to look for is find connector 202, where you're going to plug your jig into, right here where my thumb is, and look for an IC chip close to it. When you look at that IC chip, you're going to look real close, and there's going to be some numbers on it. Now, when you find that IC chip, what TCC's been telling people in the field is take your phone and take a picture, because the numbers are very small. Blow them up so you can read them. This one down here at the bottom is telling me B5E6. So now I can look at my chart and I can find B5E6. So I know that was I now know my checksum number. So now I know what I'm looking for. Now I'm looking for a checksum number ending in 236. So I have to have the old one to find out the compressor, the checksum number, so I know what it's got to be when I go into the unit. So now, having that information, I now know, and I'm just going to mark this so I don't lose it. So now we've got our new software to go in. Now I go to the board. Now remember again, now if it says TX, I'm going to use the white connector on this cable. If it says VCC, I'm going to use the red one. And then if it was not marked, I would take my ohm meter, ohm out between pins 1 and 2, then ohm between 2 and 3. If 1 and 2, was higher than 2 and 3, I would use the white connector. If 2 and 3 was higher than 1 and 2, I would use the red connector. Again, I am referencing off of the guide that came with your jig. All this information's in there. All right, so we now know that we came over here. I've selected a board with TX, so I'm going to use the white connector. So what I'm going to do first is when you get your jig and you're going into direct mode, what you want to do is place all the dip switches in the up position. Now I'm going to take and plug the cable into my jig. And once again, double check TX is the white connector. I'm going to plug my white connector in here. I'm going to turn my jig on, and immediately when I turn it on, it's going to give me a caution. You are in direct mode, because it's letting you know that it's now up to you to select software, because if you do it wrong, it's going to load the wrong software and it's not going to work correctly. So now I'm going to push the little button here, and it's going to go through and give me different checksum numbers. Now, looking at the chart, I now know what I'm looking for. I am looking for a checksum ending in 42236. So I'm going to keep hitting the button and scrolling through until I find the checksum ending in 42236. All right, I have just found it. Once you find it, you're going to press and hold, and then when you let go, it's going to say you have selected, and I missed the first of the numbers, but then it'll come up with OOF 42236. Yes, that is what I want. You're going to press it one more time, and now it says erasing and downloading. So you have to find the new checksum, and then it's going to operate just like it did in the auto mode. It will go through, erase what it needs to, and reload. And it's telling me it's downloaded 100%, upgrade complete, and then checksum value or checksum match, and it's flashing back and forth. And all you need to make sure of is the checksum it's given you is what you told it to load. If it did, and mine did, what I want to do is turn off my jig, unplug from my board. Now this board is ready to go into the refrigerator. Please note that you're not going to have to use direct mode very often, but if you do, you're going to need to know the production date of the board to see if that board can actually be flashed. Number two, you're going to have to find out what your software version is on the board. To get that, look for the small little IC chip next to or close to connector 202. Find that little number, and like I said, unless you got a magnifying glass, take a picture of it with your phone, blow it up, find what was, and on your chart it'll say as is to be. So you're going to take that software, find it in the as is to know what your to be is going to be. And remember, we're not only doing this when we replace a compressor using the UCP compressor, we're using this to update all PCBs out in the field from July of 2014 through May of 2019. One last thing I would like to bring up to you. If you were replacing an FLA075 LANA compressor, that is the UCP compressor, so you're going to be replacing it with a UCP. So when you go to update the board, your as-is checksum is the same as the to-be checksum. Go ahead and flash it. But the checksums are going to be the same because you're putting the same compressor in. And you're only going to find that instance in about 3 different units or 3 different PCBs out there. But I don't want you to say, wait a minute, my as-is and to-be are the same. Just go ahead and flash it. It's not going to hurt anything. If you have any questions, please contact the training department. My name's Dan. Have a great day.